I think it certainly helps if you're in a market that free agents want to go to, if you have opportunity from a financial standpoint to pay good free agents.
1 minute ago, everything changed. At least if you believe the newest wave of reports blowing up the Team USA timeline. Fans are stunned, the locker room whispers are getting louder, and the basketball world is locked on one question. Did Caitlin Clark really walk away from Team USA? And did Sue Bird actually apologize? Tonight we're breaking down the rumors, the tension, the silence, the politics, the alleged favoritism, and the most explosive claim of all.
But certainly as coaches and as former players, I want to see roster expansion. I want to see us be able to really have the opportunity to develop young players and young talent.
That the so-called UConn Mafia inside Team USA may have finally pushed things too far. And this was the moment where Caitlin Clark said, "Enough is enough." Before we dive in, hit that like button right now, because if even half of what's circulating is true,
there are a lot of players who have potential to play in our league that just don't have opportunity because there's not enough spots.
This changes everything about how Team USA handles the next phase of women's basketball. The camp energy was never normal. From the very start of training camp, insiders have been hinting that something felt off.
And because when you're holding an 11, 12-man roster, you got to have players who can impact right away. We've seen it from an injury standpoint. We've had to go the hardship route a number of times. If you have more roster spots, then they're in your system.
Caitlin Clark, the most watched, most discussed, most culturally influential player in the sport right now, walked into a room full of legends, veterans, and strong personalities.
On it because Sue Bird was kind of like a new generation type thing. It kind of centralized the process. There was a lot of shady means last year with just multiple people involved.
And that is not an easy environment for any young star, no matter how talented, not because the players are bad people, not because anyone wanted chaos, but because Team USA has always been built on hierarchy.
Everyone throwing up their hands saying it wasn't them. And now with Sue Bird there, you got a square person that's running things. Like on the men's side, you got Grant Hill.
That's the culture. You earn your status over cycles. You respect the chain. You fall in line. And the problem, according to the whispers, was that Caitlin didn't fit the old timeline. Not because she isn't ready as a player, but because she arrived as a global brand and a ratings machine.
Prior to that, you had Jerry Colangelo. And in this situation with Gino Auriemma, Sue Bird.
Before the traditional order was ready to hand her the keys, that's where the alleged friction began. Not loud, not explosive, but painfully visible in the way these things usually are. The vibe shift, the cold shoulders, the subtle separation in group dynamics.
Is the UConn Mafia about to try to move Caitlin Clark out the way for Paige Bueckers, at the point guard position at least?
Fans call it disrespect. Reporters call it politics. Insiders call it a power struggle. And whether all of that is completely accurate or slightly exaggerated, one thing is clear. The narrative took off because people believe the tension is real.
You never addressed the things that these players have done to contribute to any negativity around the league.
The big fear behind the scenes. Here's what insiders have been whispering for months. Some decision makers allegedly wanted to stick with the old guard one more cycle. Some allegedly preferred Paige Bueckers positioned as the face of the next transition. Some felt the media pressure around Caitlin was too big.
It took Nafisa Collier getting taken out for the remainder of the postseason for you guys to finally say something about the refs.
Too fast, too disruptive to the team first message. And the most controversial interpretation, that a few power pockets inside Team USA weren't thrilled about how quickly Caitlin became the center of the women's basketball universe. Because think about the reality of the moment. When Caitlin Clark touches the ball, the world watches.
Players are the ones who had Caitlin Clark as the most flagrantly fouled player in the league. That was the players. Don't make that about fans.
When she sits, the cameras still find her. When she speaks, the headlines multiply. When she appears in a commercial, the sport grows. That kind of gravitational pull doesn't just change the WNBA. It changes the national team structure, too. And it forces leaders to ask uncomfortable questions. Is Team USA bigger than any one star? Or is the future now so clearly tied to Caitlin's brand and style that resisting her rise is a losing strategy? The Sue Bird layer.
There's been organizations such as the Indiana Fever who lied and hid injuries about Caitlin Clark the whole time, all while using her to sell tickets and saying she's game to game and day to day for months at a time.
This is where things got personal for fans. Reports say Sue Bird had concerns, not necessarily about Caitlin's talent, but about the media frenzy that follows her everywhere. In at least one interview context, Bird has spoken about how young stars need time, breathing room, and protection from unrealistic expectations.
I was just glad to know eventually I wasn't the only girl playing basketball and balling, and playing at a high level.
That's a fair leadership perspective, but fans interpreted it differently. To many people online, it sounded like, Caitlin's hype is a problem. That's when the narrative exploded. Sue Bird doesn't want Caitlin. Sue Bird is holding her back. The veterans are freezing her out.
But it's been a blessing just to watch the women grow and watch the women find their voices, use their platforms, and finally get paid.
Now, to be clear, we don't have confirmed proof of any direct anti-Caitlin agenda. A lot of this is inference and fan interpretation. But once a story like that hits a cultural nerve, it grows faster than facts can catch up. The silence that fueled everything.
You recently coached the WNBA All-Star game. You spent some time with Caitlin Clark.
Best coaching job ever.
Best coaching job
Best
ever.
coaching job.
Then came the alleged internal chatter that really lit the fuse. One rumor claims that staff or leadership conversations referenced limiting Caitlin's role in major rotation plans. Another rumor says a comment, possibly overheard or passed around secondhand, suggested she wasn't being viewed as a central piece yet. Was it true? Was it misheard? Was it taken out of context? No one officially confirmed it. But the internet didn't wait for confirmation. And the worst part for Team USA? They stayed quiet. And in modern sports culture, silence is dangerous because silence becomes a blank screen. And fans project the most explosive version of the story onto it. The final film session rumor. Now we get to the point of no return. The moment the newest wave of anonymous sources claims the tension finally peaked. Multiple reports floating online suggest that after one final film session, Caitlin was allegedly critiqued for mistakes or responsibilities that weren't fully hers. Whether that's true, exaggerated, or interpreted through frustration, the claim is that this was the last straw. Not a dramatic emotional meltdown, not a screaming match, but something colder and sharper, a professional line in the sand. The quote circulating in paraphrased form across fan pages is essentially, "If this is how I'm valued, I'm done." Then the rumor says she walked out. The room froze. Some looked away. Some were shocked. Some were quietly relieved that someone finally said what the younger players had been thinking. Again, that's the story being told, not an official transcript. But it's spreading because it matches what fans already believe has been bubbling under the surface. That Caitlin is too big to be treated like a normal rookie in a traditional hierarchy system. The private apology twist. And then came the twist that turned this into a full-on wildfire. The rumor that Sue Bird reached out privately, not publicly, not for a PR show, but directly. And the alleged message? Simple and devastating in impact. You deserved better. If that did happen, even in a softer or more nuanced version, it matters because of who Sue Bird is in the sport. When someone that iconic acknowledges that a generational star may have been mishandled, even quietly, it changes the temperature of the entire room. It validates the fans, it empowers the younger players, it forces the veterans to adjust. And it signals that the old way of doing things might not survive the new era. The UConn Mafia narrative explodes. Now we have to address the term fans keep weaponizing the UConn Mafia. For years, this phrase has floated around online as a half-joke, half-accusation that UConn-affiliated power networks influence Team USA culture, role assignments, and the perception of who fits the system. Is it exaggerated? Probably. But conspiracies don't need to be fully true to shape public perception. They only need a moment that feels like proof. And in the eyes of fans, this alleged standoff with Caitlin became that moment. Because Caitlin represents something different, a new pipeline, a new style, a new cultural engine. She isn't a product of the old national team ecosystem. She is the future that arrived early. Why this is bigger than one camp. Even if the dramatic version of the story is overstated, the structural reality behind it is still real. Team USA is at a generational crossroads. The old era was built on veteran hierarchy, defensive identity, disciplined, system-first culture, gradual transition of leadership. The new era, whether the program likes it or not, is being defined by pace, spacing, three-point gravity, superstar cultural influence, athletes who bring fans with them. And in that reality, Caitlin Clark is not just another candidate, she's a transformation. That's why the room allegedly shifted every time she touched the ball. Because she doesn't just change possessions, she changes the entire business of women's basketball. The brutal question Team USA can't avoid. So here's where this gets uncomfortable. The public conversation is no longer, does Caitlin Clark belong on Team USA? The conversation is now, can Team USA afford the backlash if she isn't embraced as the centerpiece? Because the risk is massive if she steps away, even temporarily. That doesn't just hit the roster. It hits fan trust, sponsorship momentum, media narrative, the sense that Team USA understands the modern moment. And if the program looks like it's resisting the biggest growth engine in women's basketball, the optics become brutal. Not because the veterans aren't great, but because the market has already chosen its new gravitational center. The most important takeaway: whether this ends up being true in full, partially true, or a dramatic exaggeration, the story has revealed something impossible to ignore. Caitlin Clark isn't operating on the same timeline as the traditional Team USA system. She is already a global face, a ratings anchor, a cultural movement, a brand cornerstone. And when an athlete reaches that level of influence, the old rules don't apply cleanly anymore. The program can either adapt or risk looking out of touch. What happens next? If Team USA leadership is smart, the next moves will be about de-escalation and clarity. That doesn't mean handing Caitlin special treatment at the expense of everyone else. It means acknowledging what every fan can see. She is not just a great player. She is a generational accelerator for the sport that deserves structure, clarity, and respect. And yes, it also means building an environment where veterans feel valued and protected too. Because this cannot become a civil war between eras. The goal isn't old guard versus new star. The goal is continuity. Final word. Tonight's rumors feel explosive because they touch the deepest fault line in women's basketball right now. The shift from legacy-based power to market-driven reality. Caitlin Clark is the biggest star in the sport. Team USA is the biggest institution in the sport. When those two forces struggle for alignment, even small moments can become seismic. So whether she truly walked out, whether Sue Bird truly apologized, and whether the Yukon Mafia narrative is inflated or accurate, the bigger point remains. This is what happens when the future arrives before the system is ready. And if Team USA underestimates her impact, the blowback won't be quiet. Because the world already knows what Caitlin Clark represents. The future, the growth, the spotlight. So the real question isn't whether she belongs. The real question is, what happens to Team USA's image, momentum, and relevance if she ever decides she doesn't need them? If you want the next update as more camp details and official responses roll out, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And drop your take below. Do you think this is real tension finally boiling over? Or is the internet amplifying normal camp dynamics into a blockbuster controversy?